It is 8:07. You're listening to 100.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Ray Richardson. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, in the Mid-Coast, you can get us at 98.3 FM. AM 1310 takes you from Sanford to Gardner. And Stan Bennett, we are so grateful to you and the Patriot Radio Group for carrying the morning show. That takes us up into Rangeley in New Hampshire. WLOBradio.com has audio and video streaming. And boy, did we stream a lot of people over the weekend for the convention and certainly for the 2nd Congressional District debate that Steve Robinson and I moderated. And we're grateful to all of you that tuned in. We had people listening in Aruba. I would love to know why Aruba cares about the 2nd District of Maine, but for some reason they did. We had literally people listening in Aruba. And you can always say, Alexa, play WLOB radio. And believe it or not, she'll do it. It's pretty cool. Dave Packham is back in the house. How are you?
Morning, Ray.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You, in your regular life, you are the CEO, chief cook and bottle washer of Pineland Meats.
Correct.
But in your non-regular life...
Yeah. I don't know how it happened, Ray, but we've now finished 10 hours of programming called Voices of Hope, The Rugged Road to Recovery. Last night at 8 o'clock, they played our sexploitation episode, and it's hard to say that it might be my favorite episode because it's such a tough topic. In fact, I got a text from a friend who watches all these shows religiously, and her text said, "Dave, I'm not sure I can keep going." And she was about 20 minutes into the show. And I said, hang in there. And we brought Catherine Ann Wilson with us today. She's one of the 4 awesome women we profiled in those first 20 minutes that are so tough. But each one of those women just emerged from that darkness and became a powerhouse. And Catherine Ann is one of those women. I think the thing that absolutely blew me away in interviewing these people that had been through so much, had been abused and exploited in ways that is just hard to even discuss, is that at the end of the show, 3 of them, and Catherine Ann closes the show with us on a discussion about hope, they talked about forgiveness, which was a concept that I could not come to grips with initially until I heard them, and we edited it, and we closed the show that way. And I think it just says a lot about resiliency and people's ability to move beyond what has not just challenged them, but crippled them early in their lives. So I'm just so happy to be sitting next to Catherine Ann Wilson. She's really something.
Well, I'm happy that you're sitting next to her because that means she's in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Gosh,
nice to see you.
That was amazing, Dave. That's pretty cool.
You know, he hit on something that's really, really important, and that is the concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness brings redemption.
Absolutely. And I can't speak for the other ladies who were profiled by Dave and the Voices of Hope episode. But for myself, that forgiveness and that redemption and that hope comes from my connection with God and having that faith, that relationship to higher power, or whatever anybody else calls it. I call it God. He was my saving grace. He's the one that pulled me through everything that I went through. I would not be who I am or what I've been able to give back through the indwelling Holy Spirit that dwells within me, being led by that to take what happened to me and after my own, I call it surviving the surviving, right? So you go through 20 years of abuse, then 20 years of all different kinds of therapy and self-help and self-growth, which are really 2 different things. And then how can I give back? How can I be a conduit of God's hope in my community? How can I prevent what happened to me from happening to other children? And how can I give hope to people who've been through maybe not sexual abuse or rape or trafficking or awful things, but even, I like to say, we don't compare trauma, but everybody has a story. Everybody has a wound. And I want them to know that there can be hope and life and an amazing life after whatever has happened to you when you do your work and move forward.
Are you, well, and I don't want to put you in any place you don't want to be in. Unfortunately, Dave, I was unable to see it last night. We had some other things going on. I don't want you to be in any place you don't want to be, but how much of your story are you willing to share?
Oh, it's whatever you want to know. I'm
going to shut my mic off, and I'm going to shut Dave's mic off, and I'm going to let you talk.
Hold on to your girdle, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
They are used to that. They listen to this show.
Well, I appreciate that. So for those of you who are out there that have had some sort of abuse trauma happen to you, we all have a story, and we have to be careful that we don't compare stories. It isn't what happened to you, it's how you reacted and responded to it. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story, but please don't compare it to yours. I've met people with worse stories than mine. I've met people with lesser stories, but maybe the lesser story person, how they responded to that was more devastating. And I don't want you to feel guilty if you are suffering and your story is, has less wounding than mine. So I just want to say that. I also want to say that what I'm going to share is can be traumatic and triggering for people. And if that's you, don't forget to breathe. For me, I put my feet on the ground and I remind myself, like I learned from my veterans, I'm right here, it's right now. So take care of you. So I was the eldest child in a loving home. I was wanted, I was loved, and I was born in this great home. But when my brother was born, he had a lot of asthma and serious issues that took the attention of my mom and dad, totally understandably. And that is when offenders move in, right? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for access to a vulnerable child, and all children are vulnerable. For me, that was in first grade, and a school administrator took me out of class, and he sexually abused me. And is common for children who've been sexually abused. Once you've been abused once, it's sort of like blood in shark-infested waters. Any offender within a 20-mile radius seems to have a beacon drawing them in. So then it's the babysitter, and then it's my aunt, and it's my uncle, and it is a sleepover, and it's somebody's uncle or somebody's... So just repeatedly. And so when you're sexually abused, at least I behaved differently in school. So I was the littlest kid in school. I'm being sexually abused outside of school. So how I'm behaving in the school was in a way that sort of told the kids around me that I was vulnerable to being a victim. Again, sort of a beacon. So I was bullied and horrifically, and I would match sexual abuse and the bullying of your peers to be almost equal in that effect that it had on me. It was devastating for me to have the kids in the school taunt, torment, beat me up, bully me on a regular basis. So I did what any red-blooded American child would do. I left. I'd skip school. I wanted to be safe. Children long to be safe. So from 12 to 17, I was a runaway. First, I would run away for a short period of time. And then as I got older, I would run away for longer and longer periods of time. We lived in Florida in the wintertime. My dad was a union electrician, and we lived in Florida. We lived in Maine in the summertime. We owned a little campground, like cottages on a little pond in southern Maine. So we were in Maine in the summertime, Florida in the wintertime. And at the time that I was 14, I ran away when we were in Maine. And I ended up in the Biddeford-Saco area, living in a very bad situation on Pike Street in Biddeford. And it was an awful situation. And there were a couple of women living on the second floor. I call them women. They were probably teenagers. and they were being sex trafficked. They had pimps and they were being trafficked, and the pimps kept them in this apartment. And I was starving, literally starving. I had stopped menstruating. I wasn't getting enough food. I was stealing food, stealing clothes, not enough to be healthy, and being kept in this basement apartment. So when these girls fed me macaroni and cheese with tuna fish and peas, that hit my bloodstream, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. I'm getting food. And they said, hey, you could have your own apartment, and you could have clothes, and you could be independent like us. We go on dates. I mean, you're sexual anyway. You know, we go on dates, and we get paid to be on the dates, and we have boyfriends that keep us safe and take care of us. And I mean, they had me, I was at yes before my macaroni and cheese and tuna fish and peas were over. I was hungry and I wanted to be safe. And it looked like what they had was what I wanted. I didn't fully understand the price that I would pay for what I thought I wanted: my own apartment, enough food to be safe and not be raped and beaten like I was in the basement apartment. When I said yes to what they said, I did not realize what would happen. When they're luring kids like me, vulnerable children, into situations like this, you know, all they see is money. When you are transporting and selling drugs, you sell the drug is gone. You have to go get more drugs. But when you're selling a child, and the younger you are and the younger you look, like I did, remember I was the smallest kid in my school, when you look even younger, there's a higher dollar amount that can be brought in with you. So you're just an ATM machine for a pimp. They are just selling you over and over and over again. And so and they don't tell you that you're going to be a slave. You can't come and go as you please. You're not going to see any of the money. So you're not going to have your own apartment, and you aren't going to be able to buy your own clothes. You're not going to be able to go shopping. You're not going to be able to go anywhere or do anything without this pimp overseeing you and telling you where you can go. So it was a horrific chapter in my life. So there's chapters of being bullying, and there's chapters of being a runaway, and all the things that happen when you're a runaway. You sort of go, from the frying pan into the fire. You stay with friends. Oh, you're being abused at home. Well, you can stay at our place. You can be on our couch. So when somebody abuses you in a runaway situation, who are you going to tell? It's not like you can say, this uncle or this aunt or whoever is abusing you, I'm going to tell somebody. You just have to try to survive that abuse and remember not to spend the night at that person's house anymore. So now where are you going to go where you can be safe? I slept in forts in the woods. I broke into empty apartment buildings. I was arrested once for shoplifting at a Dillard store because I wanted a towel. I got picked up for shoplifting for a towel. The people that you meet, the things that you see, the awful things that you see on the street. In Florida, when I was a runaway, there's this thing called a chicken hawk. And a chicken hawk is in this case, a man who likes children, little boys and girls. And when you're a runaway and they let you in to their subculture world, and you're watching somebody sexually abusing a little boy, and you can't say anything, but those visions stay with you. The subculture is awful. So a chapter, and then a chapter. My sex trafficking experience was just over a year. Some people it's decades. How I escaped that is a beautiful story that really gave me faith. I was saved actually as a runaway. I think I was 13 or something, and I was a runaway from Florida and ended up in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And part of living in this one person's house, besides being sexually abused by two of the men there, was we had to go to church. It was the First Church of God in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and they had a revival. And I was curious, like I was listening to the book of Acts and how we're supposed to live and community and taking care of each other. And when they did the revival, like I jumped to that altar. I was like, yes, this is amazing. And I was baptized in the river the next Sunday. And then after the baptism, there was a church turkey shoot, and the cops came to take me away for being a runaway. So I went to the juvenile detention center with my little white Bible that they had given me after the baptism, and then back to Florida. But that foundation of having something to believe in, this little beacon of hope, that there's something out there that is beautiful and loving, unlike the very worst of humanity that I had seen for so many of my young years. When I escaped my pimp, that was after I had asked God to save me. You know, I was standing outside. I was 17 years old, and I was ready for it to be over. I was a size 0. I don't even want to tell you the amount of rape, the group of men, 5 men who were supposed to be on a hunting trip at the Holiday Inn by the Bay, and I was the only prostitute, the only sex trafficked person who showed up, and the 5 men didn't care. There was just one girl. They would just have to take turns. So now I'm outside, and I'm just ready to die. So if there is a God, I am ready to be with him. So I'm talking out loud to the trees in the backyard somewhere in southern Maine, in a home that the pimp kept girls at. And my pimp used fear and terror to keep me in place. So although I didn't have an actual gun to my head or actually tethered to the building, psychologically, I most certainly was tethered. I thought this guy was Satan, and that he could see all. And if I stepped out of line or I stepped off the property, sort of like the invisible fence that we have now for dogs, somehow an alarm would go off and something horrific would happen to me, like the bestiality pornography that they told me about that they did in Lowell, Massachusetts. So I did not want that to happen. So I stayed in line. So I'm outside and I'm saying, God, could you please just kill me? Like, let me go. I'm afraid to kill myself, because what if hell is real? What if reincarnation is real and I come back in a worse situation? How could it possibly be worse than what I had lived through and what I had seen? So I was afraid to kill myself, but I absolutely did not want to live any longer. And so I said, God, if you are real, then either take me or save me from this situation. Within a short amount of time, I had the courage, and I don't know how to explain what it took to be able to walk off the property. When I say tethered with terror, I mean it. So for me, when I took my first step off the property, and it was a very rural area, the next home was, I don't know, maybe a mile away or so. It was, and I don't I don't remember where I was. But when I stepped off the property, I thought, boy, if Peter, the pimp, sees me, what am I going to say? Oh, I was imagining what I would say to him if he came around the corner because some alarm went off that Catherine has stepped off the property. What would I say? And each step down the road where I was going, I didn't know. I was just walking down the road. Each step meant death, 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 death. Actually, death would have been cool. This was worse than death. This is Lowell, Massachusetts, actually chained, actually having animals, all the stuff Peter showed you, walking. And then I get to this first house and I knocked on the door. And when this woman went to answer it, I pushed myself through the door and said, I need help. So why didn't, now from like a grown-up perspective, why didn't that lady call the cops? I don't know. Why didn't she do a lot of different things? I don't know. But what she did do was she called the Crossroads Center for Women in Windham, Maine. Come to find out, she was a drunk, and she was getting ready the next day to do a 30-day rehab at the Crossroads for Women, and she called them and said, hey, this teenager just walked in the house, busted through the house. What do I do? And why didn't they say, call the cops or something? They said, bring her with you. So the God jobs that happened, it's so cool when we can look back and see the dots and how they connect. So that night I didn't sleep, but I hid underneath her guest bed, literally. And then the next morning, her husband turned the car sideways, and I got into the floorboard of the back seat, curled in a little tiny ball, which wasn't hard for me to do, and took me to this Crossroads for Women. And Peter did find out that I was gone. Somebody was shot that night. There was, he lost his ATM. So from that Crossroads place, it is for adults. It is only a 30-day stay. Why did they let me, 17, stay 3 months? Just amazing. So my whole story is like the first 20 years of abuse, next 20 years is self-help and self-growth, and the dots where there were different crossroads in my life, and God saved me or put me in the right place or put the right people in my life. Now, I didn't go to high school, and yet I was able to move on to make a 6-figure income. And I bought my dream home on a little pond in southern Maine, even though I spent 20 years in Kansas. And then at nearly 40, I started volunteering at Long Creek. And when I was there, I got to see all of these kids that were living lives like I had led. So 20 years of the most awful, horrific things, 20 years of any veteran knows that the real hell does not begin until you are out of the war zone. That is when the post-traumatic happens. I could not do drugs or alcohol on the street because my body just didn't like it. It didn't react and respond the way it did to the other girls. So they could drink and drug and sort of numb what they were going through and what they saw. I remember every awful thing that has ever happened to me. Good news, bad news. So the 20 years of self-help, self-growth, I could not take antidepressant medication or anti-anxiety medication. I had to learn other ways of dealing with my post-traumatic stress disorder, awful night terrors, just unbelievable things, and then ultimately cancer of the cervix because of all the sexual partners. So in my 20s, I had a hysterectomy. So awful, awful, awful. And then good, right? Then I'm making a 6-figure income in sales. And that was one job leading to another, cleaning houses, picking up dog poop in people's backyards, cleaning out pools, working at wherever, working at a gym, and then slowly working my way up to being 100% commission, sales job, 6-figure income. And it was commission because one of the owners wanted to give me an opportunity and the other one said, she's white trash, I don't want to give her an opportunity. And the other guy said, let's give her a shot. And the other guy said, okay, we'll give her a shot, but only commission. And I went on to make a 6-figure income and then bought a little house in southern Maine. I'm like 47 years old. I meet my now second husband, Charlie, and I decide to give back. Now, my past was on a need-to-know basis, and unless you were my husband or my therapist, I had already gone through 20 years of living it, 20 years of processing it. I didn't want to tell anybody about my past. Unless you were my best friend, I needed to tell you maybe that I had been raped once to explain why I'm jumpy if you come up behind me or something. So really it was, nobody needed to know. And now I'm volunteering at Long Creek and I'm seeing all these girls on the girls unit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, does the people in Maine understand what's happening to the children here? Because I love Maine. Like, this is my dream place. This is where I did vision boards. I fantasized about living in Maine. And now I'm looking at all these girls on the girls unit who had all had similar stories to mine. And I'm thinking the people in Maine must not know what's going on. They must not really understand that 1 in 5 children are being sexually abused, that 89% of all the trafficked people in the state of Maine were sexually abused first. They must not understand. So what organizations in Maine are educating our public? Because I know Maine people, and if they knew what was going on, they would rally. I mean, look what happens when we find out that a dog shelter burned down. Well, we've got semi-trucks filled with food and beds and crates and everything for those animals. If they knew what was going on with children, surely they would do the same thing. So I was asked by the Cumberland County District Attorney, then Christine Thibault, if I would be on a special panel with Ruchira Gupta, who was the person who worked with the Clintons to create our first sex trafficking bill. And so she was going to be speaking, and they asked if I would be on that panel. And Channel 6 said, hey, we'd like to do an interview of you. Now, this is me, and my friends, don't know the whole story. My husband knows most of the story, but not all of it. So I said, okay, God, how can I serve you? What can I do? So I called the police and I said, hey, is my pimp in Maine still alive? I gave them the address and they said, yep, he's alive. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do the Channel 6 news, if I end up dead, you should probably go there. I asked my husband if it was okay. I asked my adult children if it was okay. I talked to my friends, and everybody was so supportive. They said, yes, if you can make a difference in our community, then we've got your back. Go for it. And so I did that interview, and I was on that panel, and I was surprised at the way our different organizations in Maine, and I've heard this is true for other nonprofits and other organizations, but it was a competitive thing instead of a collaborative thing. And I said, boy, that's not how God wants us to be. He wants us to work together for the greatest good and to protect our children. So I started my own nonprofit, and I called it Stop Trafficking US because in 2015, trafficking was the hot topic. Trafficking was just one short chapter in my life, as it is usually with trafficked people and sexually abused people and bullied people. I didn't understand about ACEs when I first started this in 2015. ACEs is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And what happens to children when they are abused and neglected early on, and the ripple effect that it causes is devastating for a community. When we're looking at the news and we're seeing the hate on social media and we're seeing the us and them and we're watching people that are just crazy, like we're like, where is this hate coming from? We can look at their childhood and say, I remember when I met Governor LePage and he said, I was 10, how old were you? And I said, I was 12. And we knew what each other was talking about. The domestic violence that he saw and what he lived through and what I lived through caused us to show up in our community and in our lives in a way that people might think, boy, what is wrong with you, right? But then when you understand what we saw and what we went through, it sort of makes sense. And then you look at our heart, and our heart is we really wanted to do the best thing for our community. So I called it Stop Trafficking US because that was the hot topic. That was the key to get me in the door. What I really wanted to talk about was stop having sex with children. Like the fact that he even had to say that is crazy, right? But stop having sex with children. The ripple effect of the abuse and neglect of kids, most people don't have a happy ending. And when I went through the volunteer orientation at Long Creek, I totally didn't understand why the people I was being interviewed by were emotional when I talked to them. I sort of made a deal with God after I talked to my husband and my friends and family that in order to have the greatest impact, I needed to be beyond my own blackmailer, the blackmailer in my head that says, don't tell them everything. They're going to lock you up if they know how crazy you are. They're not going to be your friend. Your husband's going to divorce you. Your friends are going to leave you. If they only knew the awful things that you had done, the awful things that were done to you, you are disgusting. You are socially completely unacceptable. You can't tell people the story. And I had to trust that God put me in this time, in this place, in this moment. And if I was going to be a true conduit of hope in our community, I needed to be 100% open. And so every question they asked me at Long Creek in 2015, I answered the truth, and they cried. They cried, and I didn't understand why they were crying until later. They were crying because they had never seen a happy ending. They were crying because all of the kids that they had such high hopes for, incarcerated, 99% of them would never make it to where I had made it. I did not see myself as some sort of Powerball, like 1 in a million chance. But working with the girls, I soon realized that I was, and that broke my heart. And what I wished for all victims, no matter what level of trauma, no matter what level of abuse you've gone through, what I wish for you is to wake up in the morning with gratitude and appreciation, comfortable in your own skin, knowing that whatever happened to you does not need to define you in some sort of negative way. It can define you as a soldier for God, somebody who can be a conduit of forgiveness and hope in your own life and end that generational trauma. The secrets keep us sick. And I'm not saying like, go tell the world your most awful, disgusting things. Or if you have a childhood like mine, that somehow you're obligated to do a dog and pony show for the world. You're not. Just do your work. And then live the best, highest version that you possibly can be and let what happened to you go. The greatest gift that you can do for yourself and your family and your community is to heal you. And that is a never-ending thing. A lot of therapy, a lot of time. But I have to tell you that every morning when I wake up, and I live on Sebago Lake, and I watch the sunrise, I'm just like, what an amazing world we live in. What a beautiful, amazing world. And I see the sunrise, and I listen to the birds, and I watch my little dogs, and I see children laughing, and I'm like, boy, today I can't save the world, but I can do my little part. I can do my little part. And if everybody does their little part, like Bill Diamond is doing right now with Walk a Mile in Their Shoes, if we all just do our part, then we can save the world. And we do that by saving our children. Thank you.
Don't bang me. Thank you. Wow. I don't even know what to say. It's only happened 4 times. This is the 4th time in 20 years. I don't know what to say. Thank you. I think you helped a lot of people today.
I hope so.
Wow. I don't know what to say. Thank you for bringing her in, Dave. Maybe you'll come back again?
However I could be of service.
Yeah. Wow. We need to take a break. It's 8:44. You're listening to 100.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Ray Richardson. Thanks for joining us. So if you sat through the last 45 minutes, you're probably kind of sitting here like me and don't know exactly what to do. I don't really know what to do. I hear your story, Catherine, and I grew up just the opposite. Me and my brother Jim and my mom and dad, we're all very close, and we lived in this close-knit community, and I can't imagine what you went through. And I look at you right now, and you're a beautiful, confident, accomplished woman. And I don't know how you got there, other than by the grace of God. Absolutely, that's it. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you walked in the door, I thought, and I had met you, and I thought, wow, what a beautiful woman walking in the door, all put together, and I even complimented you on your pearls, and I had no idea, what you've gotten through, and it kind of plays into what we always taught our kids. You don't know what you don't know about a person you encounter. We often use American Idol as the example of some kid walking around, and next thing you know, they're singing with the most beautiful angelic voice. But in your case, you don't know what you don't know, and now we do, and I can't admire you more. Wow. Dave, thanks for bringing her in.
Well, you're welcome, Ray. It's an honor to be here with her today.
Yeah, I could not agree with that statement more. It is an honor to be here with you today. Just incredible.
Thank you for allowing me to hopefully give some hope. Also, we do free trainings. Senator Collins gave me a grant for $300,000 for child sexual abuse prevention conferences. So we have been doing in-person conferences. The next one is in the First Baptist Church in Portland on Canco Road, May 10th and 11th, for free. We bring in national experts to speak. Bill Diamond would be one of the speakers on Saturday, all free of charge. The StopTrafficking website has free trainings, free to you. So I find the highest and best Christian speakers They come and they offer our community national level trainings free of charge for our community. So if they go to the website, we've got one June 8th. That's a 5-hour for parents on how to talk to your kids. It's all about child abuse prevention. And then the in-person at the church on 10th and 11th. Augusta in August. We have 2 days then, and Caribou in September. For faith leaders, for faith communities and faith leaders.
Yeah, it's critical. There's no demographic. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are. There's no demographic that escapes this.
Right.
It's one of the things I learned when Steve Webster and I put together this series we did a number of years ago. And we had
amazing.
We had a lot of folks in here. Oh yeah, Steve's been amazing. And you keep bringing up Bill Diamond. Bill Diamond is one of Maine's great treasures. He and his wife Jane have put together Walk a Mile in Their Shoes, and the work they've done and the things they've accomplished in the last year, bringing awareness, which is the only way we're going to fight this thing, is to bring awareness, because legislative bodies and elected people are often very slow to move.
Right. That's why it's important that we do it.
Right.
And you giving the microphone to Dee and Steve, that and me just now, that's it. It takes all of us working together. How you prevent it is you prevent access. Right? So that's where our power is. But if you don't know what you don't know what to look for, you don't know what to say when you do see something, or when your gut says something's not right, you blow it off. Oh, I can't be right. That guy or that woman is so cool. You have to be educated and not, you don't want to preach to the choir, and what I saw was our community preaching to the choir. Right? So you're having conferences for the people who already know what's going on. I said, I want to do conferences for our community who don't know what's going on.
Right.
And want to make it free.
Well, it's the same thing, the work that Bill's doing. We've said for years, Bill started this with Logan Marr in 2001. I probably got on board somewhere around 2010. And if Maine people knew what was going on with the abuse of children, I believe they would act.
Exactly.
In 2020, as you know, on neglect and abuse, we were number one in the country by double the national average.
Triple now. We get an F. So Bill is going to speak on the 11th at the conference that we're doing. And I told Bill, whatever I can do to help you, however I can, wherever I have a stage, you've got a microphone, Bill. That's collaboration.
Right.
All of us working together, and put politics aside, because politics isn't going to do it.
No.
It is us. The responsibility lies with us.
And what you just said would solve all the problems of the country, not just this one.
Yes.
If we got involved instead of leaving it to somebody else.
Yes, it's time to step up.
All the problems of the country would be solved by the people.
Yes. Just Google adverse childhood experiences and take a look at that body of research. Like, if money is the thing that motivates you, and you see how much money has lost, what is it, $210,000 per victim is what we end up paying. And think of the tens, thousands of, hundreds of thousands of victims. I mean, it's huge if money is your motivator. Personally, I think Jesus should be our motivator.
Amen.
And he calls us to protect our children. So, protect our children.
Amen. I couldn't agree with that more. We talk about Jesus here every day because it's the only way to get through this life.
Right.
God gave us this beautiful planet, and we've done everything we can to mess it up.
Yeah.
But with Jesus, we can fix it.
Right. It starts with us.
Yeah,
and this small gathering right here, and all the people who are listening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you don't need to thank me. Thank you for having the courage to step forward. I can't imagine what you went through, and I can't imagine the courage that it takes for you to step up now and to share your story. It's one thing to have gone through it. It's entirely another to tell the world.
Well, how cool of my husband, right? So that was another thing in my head was, I don't want to shame my husband that he's married to somebody that has a past like mine. Like, who would want to be married to me? Instead, his company has paid $30,000 every year so that I don't have to take a penny. So since 2015, when I started this, I haven't gotten one penny of money. Everything goes to the conferences. 100% of every dollar goes to this work because of his generosity. He can't go because he cries. He doesn't want anybody to see him cry. So he's like, you don't have to bring home the bacon, Catherine. You go save kids, and I've got you. So shout out
You tell
to
your
Charlie.
husband I was crying on air just now, so it's okay. I have no doubt your husband's incredibly proud of you.
Yeah, he's a cool
Incredibly
guy.
proud. Yeah. Wow. Dave, you got any thoughts to offer?
Well, if you want to see the hour-long show with Catherine in it, it's tomorrow night, Thursday night on Maine Public at 10 p.m. Then it'll stream on our website, seedmaine.org. We have a YouTube channel. It's been our honor to she is one of Maine's voices of hope, and she's pretty awesome. And that's our mission, is to just get those voices out there.
Yeah. Reggie Groff was involved.
Well, Reggie's the videographer and director.
Right, exactly. Who's also one of Maine's treasures. He never gets enough credit.
Yeah.
Reggie's always behind the scenes.
He
but
is.
He's a guy that deserves so much credit for so much good.
Yeah, he's got a huge heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
And throws a great party.
Yes,
His birthday.
We missed it. I started. I started seeing
date.
videos on, and I said to Dee Dee, I know it's on the calendar. So Reggie, if you're listening right now, we are so sorry we missed your birthday. It was on the calendar.
Well, and he's a great dancer, and he's a great singer. So he must have done 5 or 6 songs that night for Motor Booty.
Yep.
And Steve Noyes, Link Skywalker Jr. is one of my dearest friends,
Right.
and he was saying, "Now you're going to be there. You're going to be there, right?" We were going to be there. We would have met you there.
That's
wow.
right. Yeah. Well, Reggie said he's going to do it from now on.
Yes.
Every birthday, he's going to have a big disco party. Same bat channel. Same bat.
I don't know anyone that has more friends than Reggie. There had to
Yeah.
be 200 people there.
Oh, he's an amazing man.
Yeah.
He really is. Amazing man.
Yeah.
And you're right when you said he has a big heart. I don't know anybody that has a bigger heart except for maybe my wife, Dee Dee. So, yeah.
Thanks for inviting us in.
Yeah, this is overwhelming. Really overwhelming. I know for me to say that in front of you is awful because of what you went through, but to hear you tell the story, I don't know what else to say. You know, I'm sitting here with 2.5 minutes to go till the top of the hour, and I don't know what to say. And I always know what to say. So if either one of you would like to talk, that would be great.
Get trained. StopTrafficking.us.org. Take a look at the upcoming conferences that we have and the free education that we have for you. Education is power. So you don't have to save the world, but educate yourself so what God puts in front of you, you'll know what to do.
You know, you make such a great point here, and something we try to talk about every day. Sometimes we do it well, sometimes we don't. God, when you pray, God save me, or God give me courage, or God give me patience, which I do here on the station every day. God doesn't give you those things. You know, He doesn't make you courageous. He gives you opportunities
Right.
to have courage.
Right.
He doesn't make you patient. I'm not patient, but He gives me opportunities to be patient. I don't have patience. It's a great flaw of mine. And in your case, He not only gave you an opportunity to be saved by the miraculous story that you told us, but now He's given you courage to tell a story that needs to be heard. It's incredible. So I thank you. And I thank you, Dave, for coming in.
Thank you.
And let's do this again. And I really would love for you to come in, and you've told your story now, so let's start empowering people
Yes.
with how they
Amen.
can help.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Yes.
And you can bring our mutual friend Linda Adams if you want.
Oh, yay, Linda. She'll love that.
We have got to run. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
WLOB Portland, WLOBradio.com, and 100.5